Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies and comrades, I hope you're doing well wherever you are. This is Kenyan Revolutionary. I have a brief live here because I'm actually waiting on something, so I'm not gonna stay here for long. But I just wanted to make this live. I wanted to actually make a video, but video takes time. You have to actually edit and all that stuff. So I just wanted to make a quick video before I, get some business done over here. So, anyway, real quick, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see on the topic today. Coup in Ivory Coast. Is it happening? Because now there's rumors that the president actually has been killed. Nobody knows where the president is. The people are roaming around the streets. They are walking around. Nobody knows what's going on. We'll continue to monitor what's happening, but we'll talk about that. Then I'll also talk about the current, political activism that's we are actually outsourcing to Tanzania and Uganda. What's the reason for such a for the surge in political activism that we are trying to take to another country? What's the reason behind it? Oh my goodness! And my device here is dying. I have like 10% left, so I will be very quick so I can actually get my points across. But first, ladies and gentlemen, the first order of business. Annie, I see you. The first order of business, if you've already subscribed, go ahead and like the video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and do all the good stuff. Walidi, Ani karibu na kuona. I haven't seen you for a while, please. So if you're going to watch this on repeat or you're watching this already, please go ahead and like the video. Anyway, real quick, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to just look at what's happening at Ivory Coast. There's a lot of chaos. There's rumors that we don't know where the president is. It is said that he might have been dead, he's killed, or whatever the case is. But very curious, think about it. Ivory Coast was the only country that wanted to let the US and the French, have their troops there in order to make their way to Burkina Faso, to attack Burkina Faso. And all of a sudden, to use Kibaki's famous words, all of a sudden, all of a sudden, there's chaos in. Could it be that Burkina Faso with Russia, Putin, Uncle Putin, did they walifanya ile kitu wa make sure Ivory Coast was in Inyo? Because remember, think about it like this. Ivory Coast, of all the West African countries, with I think Nigeria probably, they are, but they're not. But let me, Kama, and he's saying Kama, absolutely. So Ivory Coast was the only country around the West Africa that agreed to have the military, American military, and France boots on the ground so that they can actually invade Burkina Faso through Ivory Coast. But all of a sudden, there's a coup d'etat. We don't know who's in control right now. I'm still monitoring. There's different reports coming out. Like I say, there's rumors that the president might have been killed or captured or whatever the case is. We don't know what's going on. But it's something that we should kind of, see what's happening. But this, brings in speculation. A lot of people are speculating maybe, people maybe Burkina Faso, with the help of Russians, they probably took that Ivory Coast president out and caused a coup d'etat, because if in doing so, whoever is going to be in charge, whoever is going to take over power, might decide and say, hey, listen, Ouattara or whoever that president was is no longer in charge. So Americans and France, please get out of our country. You do not have permission to be here. You do not have your permission to have your troops here. So mutokeni, muondoke mara moja immediately. So maybe that might be the case. So it will be interesting to follow up and see what's happening. Now, people are asking themselves, could Kenya be next? You see, East Africa kuna mizozo mingi. Suddenly, all of a sudden, umekuwa mwerevu, But anyway, again, that's what I'm saying. It's interesting. Let's watch and see what's happening, because if there's a change of guard in Ivory Coast, maybe we shall have, some general who will pull a Ibrahim Traore and say, hey, listen, I am joining the Sahel group, so France and US, please mutoke, na mtu wa mwisho kutoka afunge mlango, okay? But we'll see, and we'll see about that. Another thing I want to touch about, which is happening new, which is is catching news everywhere. Unaona news imeshika shika. Listen, there's news that we are ignoring here. Tanzania, Suluhu. She's the president of Tanzania. I know a lot of people are calling her Amina Dada, whatever Mama, whatever. Mama or something, whatever the case is. Kenyans are very creative when they want to make fun of you. But very interesting news that I want to Ninio, and it relates to the Boniface disappearance and the other whatever and all that stuff. Okay, Suluhu. There's news reports that Suluhu, listen to me very carefully, Suluhu declared that Tanzanians are no longer going to use the US dollar in Tanzania, in trading within the country. I will repeat again. Suluhu alisema, I mean mama. Yes. Please guys, like the video, subscribe, share, and do all the good stuff, okay? Suluhu aliweka announcement that Tanzania will switch up. They'll use their local currency, and they will no longer use the US dollar. Now, in my opinion, given the history of, dumping the dollar, that's a very dangerous, that's a very dangerous move, because remember, there are countries that actually went down for making that such decision. For those of you who don't know the background of this whole remember in 1970s, early 70s, late 60s, under Nixon administration, the United States, remember, the dollar used to be backed by gold, but the Nixon administration, it got off the US dollar, the gold-backed US dollars, okay, the greenbacks or whatever they called it. While he talking, they left the gold standard. The gold standard is when your currency is backed by gold. I want to get into that because basically what I'm trying to say is this. Basically what I say is we equate the value of the dollar amount, whether it's a dollar, represents 1 gram of gold. I'm just using that example. But since Nixon came off the dollar, the gold standard, okay, the United States decided that the American dollar shall be used globally to trade oil. Okay, that's why we went to the oil, petrodollars. Okay, but of course, for that to happen, that is what gives the dollar its currency, its strength. Okay, because a lot of countries in the world are trading in dollars, US dollars, especially in the gold. Sorry, not in the gold, but in the oil industry. Okay, so the BRICS, waliona mazee, this is not, we can't just be relying on the dollar because it has been controlled. The Feds, the Federal Reserve, they mess around with the interest rates, and they inflate, wanafanya affect the strength of the dollar, and inaenda juu na chini. It's not stable. So the BRICS nations say that, you know what, since this dollar is not reliable because the Feds keep on messing around with the interest rates, we shall go back to the gold standard. And when the BRICS started, they started their own currency. I forgot the name of it. Please, somebody remind me if you're in the comment there. They said they'll back their money. Even the Sahel nation, they started their bank, and they say that their money shall be backed in gold. The same thing with Nani alifanya, Gaddafi. Gaddafi also said, I'll start the black dollar, the Naira, or whatever the case is, Nairo, and it will be backed by gold, okay? And he also wanted to bring this idea of Africa trading in dollars, the black dollar, okay? Which will be backed by gold. Majority of the countries in the world wanted to go back to the gold standard. That is what's called the gold standard, where your money, your currency, your paper money can be, equated to the value of gold, depending on the gram and whatever the case is, okay? So you understand? So, but the US did not like this. So every country that announced that they were dumping the dollar, US always had a problem with. Russia is one of them. Iran is one of them. Iraq under Saddam Hussein was one of them. Gaddafi, when he was alive, he was one of them. Surprise, surprise. What's the common denominator here? US has problems with these countries, okay? Whether it's, you know, mambo wanajifanya ati nuclear sijui nini, mara sijui nini. So what I'm saying, even just to give you a brief history here, Saddam Hussein, before he was taken out the second time by the George Bush II, okay, Saddam Hussein announced that he will no longer be selling his oil. Remember, Iraq is one of the top 5 countries, that oil producing countries in the world, okay? So Saddam, in his defiance to the US, alisema, he will not sell his oil in US dollars. He said he will sell it in euros. And by doing that, that will obviously affect the strength of the dollar, okay? So the US, all of a sudden, that's the word of the day, the phrase of the day. All of a sudden, the US became clever. Wakasema, oh, unataka kusell your oil in US in euros. Wakaanza mambo ya weapons of mass destruction. Of course, there was other reasons why they invaded Iraq, but part of it was, oil, and also the fact that Saddam threatened to start selling oil in euros and dumping the dollar. Iran also announced, when they announced a few years ago, I think 2 years ago, they announced that they're dumping the dollar. That's when the US, you heard when the US started talking about, oh, Iran, they need to take out Iran, you need Iran want to develop, because that's how they maintain the power of the dollar. Nani, Gaddafi, as soon as Gaddafi started mentioning that, oh, we shall go back to the gold standard, we are no longer using the dollar, ukaanza kusikia Clinton na Obama wakaanza kusema, huyu Gaddafi anataka kuninio, he wants to kujenga mambo ya nuclear weapon, he's a terrorist, anafaa atolewe. Long behold, we know the story, what happened there. They got rid of Gaddafi. So every country that actually leaves the dollar, dumps the dollar, and backs their, goes back to their gold standard, they usually find themselves at odds with the US, and US always threaten them to take military action. This is not a theory from me. There are people who wrote about it. Like I told you, I usually tell you, John Perkins, the former CIA guy who works for World Bank, mentioned this, says that any country that tries to move away from the dollar, wanaanza mambo ya kumwambia ati they always make up stuff. They start, oh, jamani dictator, huyu ni sijui akona nuclear weapons, oh, he's threatening the security of of that region, na kadhalika. Now, I know you're asking yourself, what, Kenya Rebel, what does this have to do with, I have 5% on my stuff, but so let me, So you might be asking yourself, Kenya Rebel, what does that have to do with Kenya? Oh, there's something happened to Kenya. Now, going back to Tanzania, Suluhu, and if you follow me on X, my name is Kenya Revolutionary, go follow me there, and you can see there's an article that I highlighted there. Suluhu and the her administration said that they are going to stop using the dollar in Tanzania. All of a sudden, I told you that's the phrase of the day, thanks to Kibake. All of a sudden, ukaanza kusikia that everybody is jumping on the bandwagon, wanataka kutoa Tundu Lissu. Oh, Tundu Lissu atolewe, Tundu Lissu anaonewa. Oh, Tundu Lissu. Even people who don't know Tundu Lissu are jumping there, Tundu Lissu. All of a sudden, unaona wakina Martha Karua and Boniface Mwangi, Hanifa, wamejaa, wako kwa airport, wanataka kwenda kutoa Tundu Lissu. Hata wajui Tundu Lissu ni nani, wamejaa wanaenda kutoa Tundu Lissu. Tundu Lissu aondolewe, Tundu Lissu. By the way, isn't that enough evidence to show you that these people have been always paid by the US? The point is, the activists in East Africa who are being paid by these special interest groups, okay, these corporations, the Ford Foundation, the Bill Gates Foundation, the Bill Clinton Foundation, George Soros Foundation, these are the guys who actually try, yes, he's missing. These are the people who usually try to do what? To destabilize a certain administration in favor of the Western agenda. So as soon as Suluhu decided, we are no longer going to use the US dollar to trade in our country. All of a sudden, the Tundulisu case becomes bigger than it is actually, okay? Okay, to be fair, Tundulisu, he was there for put there for Trump on trumped up charges. And Tundulisu is also an interesting individual. It is said that he actually has connection to the West. That story another day. I have to do my homework on that. If you're Tanzanian, you can jump on the chat and tell us more about it. But the point is, as soon as Suluhu announced that Tanzania is getting off from the dollar, now you see the Western-backed activists like Judge Mutunga, Martha Karua, Boniface Mwangi, Hanifa, and others are making their way to Tanzania to protest the detainment of Tundulisu. Okay, all of a sudden now majamaa unaona, that's why you see there's a lot of noise around Tundulisu. Now you think about it. Why is this Tundulisu thing a huge deal? Why is it a huge deal? I mean, okay, Martha tried to get to Tanzania and she was denied. She flew back to home. All of a sudden, this is like the breaking news. Martha Karua was deported from New York. Why is it big news? Why? How is that important to the local Kenyans? I already talked about that. The reason, what I'm trying to say is this: these are the first steps by the U.S. using these activists that are on their payroll through these special interest groups like the Ford Foundation, the Clinton Foundation, George Soros. They're paying the Boniface Mwangis. That's why you ask yourself, when Boniface Mwangi was filming himself in the hotel, okay? Ati wanagonga, they're trying to kill me. Identify yourself, identify. I mean, the drama, even if there's people who are coming to, asking who you are in their country, you can be polite. You don't have to create commotion. But the whole idea is this, is to start demonizing Suluhu as this dictator, this evil woman that needs to be removed from power. Now, we might agree or disagree or have different opinions on Suluhu's administration, okay? We can agree or disagree, but do not think for a second that all this activism, all of a sudden, easy activism ambao zimeanza za kina Boniface Mwangi na Martha Karua and Mutunga and all this, do not think this is by accident. These are people who followed, are taking instructions from their puppet masters on the West to start the process of removing Suluhu, because the US wants a leader that will make sure that they do their bidding, use the US dollar, maintain using the US dollar. Musitoke on the dollar. So they've started the first steps of removing Suluhu. The first step is always to do what? To demonize. And that's why you see the unnecessary drama. In my opinion, I don't think Boniface Mwangi is lost. I think this guy is hiding somewhere and is the new, because the initial news was the Tanzanian authorities have left walimwachilia. Okay? Then vile walimwachilia, after he was released, all of a sudden amepotea. And guess who's making the biggest noise? Hanifa and Martha Karua and others. Whoa, Boniface has been detained. We don't know where Boniface is. The whole point is to actually try to grab international media attention to Suluhu's administration and put her in bad light, make her look like she's a murderous dictator. The point is, these are the first steps of trying to remove her. And while they do that, Tundulisu now will be propped up as the alternative to take over from Suluhu. Because Tundulisu, if the rumors are believed to be true, is said to be a Western connected. He has a lot of Western connection, Western powers, his connection to the Western powers, okay? So they will prop up Tundulisu wamweke famous so that he can remove when the election ikienda, Tundu Lissu atashinda and he will be the head of state, Suluhu atashindwa, and Tundu Lissu, they'll make sure that Tundu Lissu goes back to using the dollar as the means of exchange. Okay? Hawataki muache kutumia dollar. That's why you see these countries, Eastern African countries, before this pronouncements by Suluhu, they pinged their currency on the dollar. Mnaelewa? They were pinging their money on the dollar. Ukiangalia Kenyan shillings. Kenyan shilling is pinged on the dollar. Tunaangalia $1 is equal to, sorry, $1 is equal to 130 something Kenyan shillings. Instead of pinging our money on the dollar, why can't we move away from the dollar and ping our money on gold? So why can't we go back to the gold standard? Okay, but the US and the UK cannot let us do that. As the day that Ruto dares try to move the Kenyan shillings to be backed by gold, that is the day Ruto will be removed overnight. Enyewe, he has a lot on his back. He cannot tayari yako under pressure because you had the Senate chairman on foreign relations mentioning the whole Ruto speech when he was talking about the new world order, global new arrangement with the Chinese head. So Ruto cannot afford to make another blunder by trying to associate himself with the East. Okay, he has to align himself with the West and continue being a Western puppet. He cannot try to deny. So he will dare not move the Kenyan currency, ping it and move it to go back to the gold standard. He will maintain that. So what I'm trying to say, not to lose focus on what I was trying to say, is it not a coincidence that soon as Suluhu decides to move away from the US dollar, making a declaration that Tanzania are banning the use of the US dollar in Tanzania, even if you're a tourist, ukienda Tanzania mpaka utumie pesa ya Tanzania. I don't know if it's Tanzanian shilling or Tanzanian what. Somebody help me on the chat. Unaona? So wanalazimisha, especially these emerging developing economies, okay, countries, they make sure that wanatumia dollar. So isn't it a coincidence that as soon as Suluhu decides to move away from the dollar, wakina Boniface Mwangi, Martha Karua, Williams Mutungi, and all these paid Western puppets are in Tanzania, causing unnecessary drama mingi. Oh, Suluhu sijui nini, Suluhu ni Idi Amin, Suluhu is evil, Suluhu is nini. You see what's happening? Connect the dots. I'm your political dietitian. I will give you the nutrients that you need. I want you to always connect the dots. Why is it? Now, funny thing is also Uganda. Uganda discovered a few weeks ago or months ago, 12 trillion worth of gold deposit in Uganda. 12 trillion US dollars worth of gold deposit in Uganda. That was discovered a few months ago in Uganda. Okay? Ukaanza kusikia Museveni wanaanza the US at that time when Joe Biden was there. US wakaanza kukasirika, Kamala, they started saying, oh, Uganda, Uganda is not a democratic country. They don't let freedom of expression. They're not tolerant. Hawataki kuaccept watu wa Hey, so good, good. Sorry, man. I'm like in the middle. Let me just send this text real quick. All right, guys. I'll be back later, guys. I'll talk to you guys. Oh shoot. Bro. All right. Let me. Oh. Shit, I can't turn on the. All right. What's the name again? Jonathan? David. All right, man. Nice meeting you too. All right, guys. Sorry about that. I'm doing like 1,000 things, and I'm still up here shooting video about Kenya and Sijuinini. I'll be driving, okay? You guys want to see me? Go ahead and talk while I'm still doing this. Like in my leo. Anyway, guys, I have to stop this because I have to I'm sorry. Guys, do me a favor. Like the video, share, comment, like, do all the good stuff because I have to really drive. I can't be multitasking. That's really risky. So I'll see you guys later. Peace. Please like, share, comment, do all the good stuff. And I'll see you later. I'm again. All right. Peace and blessings.